The incident. The Helios research platform hung like a jewel against the backdrop of the Carina Nebula, its crystalline observation domes reflecting the ethereal light of distant stars. For Dr. Elena Martinez, lead archaeologist, this floating sanctuary represented humanity's greatest achievement since joining the Galactic Assembly, a collaboration between Earth's brightest minds and those of friendly alien species. She stood in the central observatory, documenting her latest findings from the recently discovered ruins on Proxima, when the station's AI made an unexpected announcement. Unscheduled vessels approaching. Configuration unknown. No response to standard hailing protocols. Elena's colleague, Dr. Kai Chen, looked up from his holographic display. That's odd. We're not expecting any supply runs for another month. He pulled up the external camera feeds, revealing 3 obsidian black ships approaching in tight formation. Their design was unmistakable. Archean Empire warships. The Archons were among the oldest spacefaring civilizations, notorious for their belief in genetic purity and disdain for younger species. They had opposed humanity's admission to the Galactic Assembly, claiming humans were too primitive to deserve a seat at the table. All personnel. This is Security Chief Rahman. The station's comm system crackled. We're detecting weapons charging on the approaching vessels. This is not a drill. Proceed to emergency shelters immediately. Elena's heart stopped. In the adjacent educational pod, 20 children, including her 8-year-old son Lucas, were attending their daily lessons. The research station housed over 300 civilians, families who had made this place their home. She rushed toward the educational section, passing panicked colleagues running for the shelter pods. The station's diplomatic channel was broadcasting on all frequencies. Archean vessels. This is a civilian research facility operating under Galactic Assembly protection. We have children aboard. Please respond. The first blast hit before Elena reached the educational pod. The station's shields, designed for protection against solar radiation and micrometeorites, crumpled under the military-grade weapons. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut as sections began losing pressure. Elena finally reached the educational pod, finding the children huddled together with their teacher, Ms. Patel. Lucas ran to her, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, what's happening?" Before she could answer, the station's AI made its final announcement. Critical structural failure imminent. Emergency transponder activated. Quantum entanglement transmission engaged. The last thing Elena saw was a brilliant flash of light as the Archean ships fired their main weapons. In that final moment, she held Lucas close, knowing that somewhere, somehow, humanity would know what happened here. The destruction of the Helios platform took less than 3 minutes. On the bridge of the lead Archean vessel, High Commander Vexterra watched with cold satisfaction. "Let the record show that this facility was destroyed for violating restricted space," she commanded. "Your Excellence," her second-in-command hesitated. "We are currently in neutral territory, according to Galactic Assembly charts." Vexterra's scaled lips curved into a cruel smile. "Are we? How unfortunate. A navigational error, then. These things happen in the vastness of space. Set course for home sector. Leave no debris." But the Archons had made 3 fatal miscalculations. First, they assumed the station's quantum entanglement communicator had been destroyed in the attack. It hadn't. Every second of the massacre had been transmitted instantly to Earth through subspace, a feed that no technology could block or intercept. Second, they believed humanity's technological capabilities were limited to what they had publicly shared since joining the Galactic Assembly. This assumption couldn't have been further from the truth. Third, and most critically, they mistook humanity's peaceful nature for weakness. They assumed Earth would respond with diplomatic protests and appeals to the Galactic Assembly. They were wrong. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility unknown to even most of Earth's governments, an AI-designated guardian analyzed the quantum transmission. Within seconds, its quantum processors had verified the authenticity of the feed and identified the attacking vessels. Within minutes, the feed had been relayed to every major military command center on and off Earth. In the Oval Office, the President of the United States received the feed along with a single message from the Joint Chiefs. Protocol Ingenuity is now active. Similar messages were being received by leaders around the world. For centuries, humanity had maintained a carefully crafted image of technological modesty, while secretly preparing for a moment they hoped would never come. That moment had arrived. In hidden shipyards throughout the solar system, lights began coming on in facilities that had waited in darkness for generations. Deep beneath the ice of Europa, and in asteroid bases throughout the Kuiper Belt, automated manufacturing plants roared to life. Humanity had chosen peace not because they were weak, but because they were wise. The Galactic Empire was about to learn the cost of their mistake. The sleeping giant was awakening, and its wrath would reshape the galaxy. Silent preparations. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Olympus Base, carved deep within Mars' Valles Marineris, watching as centuries of preparation came to fruition. Holographic displays showed similar facilities awakening across the solar system, on Europa, Titan, and dozens of asteroid bases. Each had been built in absolute secrecy, their existence known only to a select few. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Operation Aegis is proceeding as planned, Admiral," her XO, Commander David Rodriguez, reported. "The Prometheus fleet is at 97% activation. Quantum encryption protocols are holding. The Archons have no idea we're coming." The Prometheus fleet, humanity's best-kept secret. While the world had shown the galaxy their civilian ships and modest defense vessels, deep in the shadows they had built something else entirely. Not the simple ships the Galactic Assembly knew about, but vessels incorporating technologies that humanity had developed in silence over centuries. "Show me the numbers," Sarah ordered, bringing up the full tactical display. The statistics were staggering. 500,000 vessels, ranging from swift corvettes to massive dreadnoughts, each incorporating technologies that the rest of the galaxy thought impossible. Quantum shielding, dark energy weapons, gravity manipulation drives. Innovations that humanity had carefully hidden while presenting a facade of technological modesty to the cosmos. The Archon's home defense fleet numbers approximately 50,000 ships. Rodriguez noted, "They believe their technology is superior to ours. That belief is about to cost them dearly." Sarah nodded grimly. The plan had always been to reveal these capabilities gradually, to ease humanity's true technological level into the galactic community over decades. The Archons had forced their hand. "What's the status of the targeting package?" she asked. "Complete, Admiral. The quantum transmission from Helios gave us everything. Ship signatures, command codes, fleet positions. We've identified every vessel involved in the attack, including their home ports and command structure." Sarah studied the tactical display, remembering the faces of those lost on Helios. She had known Elena Martinez. They'd attended the academy together. Elena and her son Lucas were just 2 of the 300 lives snuffed out by Imperial arrogance. "Begin Phase 1, she ordered. "Activate the Ghost Protocol." Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet began to move. Ships emerged from their concealment, their quantum drives allowing them to slip through space without creating the ripples in subspace that other civilizations relied upon for detection. The largest military mobilization in human history was happening, and their enemies would never see it coming. In the Galactic Empire's capital system, life continued as normal. High Commander Vexterra had just finished briefing the Imperial Council on the unfortunate navigational error that had led to the Helios incident. The Council had accepted her explanation without question. After all, who would dare challenge the Empire? The answer was already on its way. Deep in the secure quantum communications center of Olympus Base, a young lieutenant approached Admiral Chen with a tablet. "Final authorization required, Mom." Sarah took the tablet, entering her command codes. The screen displayed a simple message: Execute Operation Aegis. Y/N. She thought of Elena and Lucas, of all the lives lost on Helios, of humanity's long patience finally reaching its end. Her finger touched the screen. Y. Across human space, quantum computers spun up to full power. In hidden bases and secret facilities, automated systems began their carefully programmed sequences. The greatest deception in galactic history was about to be revealed. On Earth, in the old United Nations building in New York, the Security Council convened an emergency session. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation, all aware of what was about to happen. The Secretary General stood at the podium, her voice carrying the weight of history. For centuries, we have maintained peace not because we had to, but because we chose to. We developed our technology in secret not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Today that ends. Today, we show the galaxy why humanity's patience should never be mistaken for weakness. In orbit around Mars, the first wave of the Prometheus fleet prepared to jump. These weren't the simple ships the galaxy knew about. These were the products of humanity's true technological capability. Each vessel represented decades of hidden innovation, centuries of preparation for a moment they had hoped would never come. Admiral Chen gave the final order. All ships, execute jump sequence. Operation Aegis is now active. Show them what humanity can do. The fleet disappeared in a cascade of quantum jumps, leaving the solar system as silent as a tomb. The Archean Empire's day of reckoning was approaching at the speed of thought. Carried on ships that rewrote the laws of physics, the galaxy was about to learn why humanity's warning had always been clear. Walk softly and carry a big stick. The sleeping giant wasn't just awakening. It was bringing centuries of hidden power to bear. The Archean Empire had started this war with an act of casual cruelty. Humanity would end it with methodical, overwhelming force. The sleeping giant wasn't just awakening. It was bringing centuries of hidden power to bear. The Archean Empire had started this war with an act of casual cruelty. Humanity would end it with methodical, overwhelming force. The first strike. In the glittering capital system of the Archean Empire, dawn was breaking over the crystalline spires of Arcos Prime. High Commander Vexterra stood at her office viewport, admiring the morning light playing across the defense fleet's formation. 50,000 warships, the pride of the Empire, maintaining their eternal vigil. The first sign that something was wrong came from the quantum detection arrays. They didn't detect the approaching human fleet. They detected nothing at all. Complete sensor silence, as if vast sections of space had simply ceased to exist. High Commander, her aide burst into the office, scales pale with fear. We're detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. Our long-range communications they're just gone. Before Vexterra could respond, the void split open. Not with the usual ripples of ships emerging from FTL, but with precise tears in the fabric of space itself. Through these quantum apertures poured humanity's true fleet, sleek, dark vessels that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. Impossible, Vexterra whispered. These weren't the primitive ships humanity had shown the galaxy. These were something else entirely. Admiral Chen's voice echoed through every communication device in the Archean system, transmitted through methods the Empire's best scientists had deemed impossible. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You murdered 300 civilians aboard the Helios research platform. We are here to collect payment for that debt. The human fleet moved with impossible precision, their formation shifting like liquid metal. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering, incorporating technologies that the Archons had fought centuries beyond humanity's reach. All ships, execute battle plan Nemesis, Chen ordered. Primary targets only. Minimize civilian casualties. The first shot of the war proper wasn't fired by a conventional weapon. Instead, thousands of human vessels simultaneously activated their gravity manipulation drives at full power. The carefully coordinated gravitational waves collided in the space occupied by the Archean defense fleet. The result was catastrophic. Ships that had withstood the most powerful energy weapons in known space were crushed like tin cans, their much-vaunted shields useless against fundamental forces of nature turned into weapons. In the chaos, Vexterra watched helplessly as centuries of Archean military superiority crumbled in minutes. The human vessels moved with impossible speed, their quantum drives allowing them to appear and disappear at will, striking from angles that should not have existed in normal space. "Launch all reserves," she screamed into the command network. "Activate the Imperial Guard. Where are our reinforcements?" "The quantum gates are blocked," her tactical officer reported, panic evident in his voice. "They're using some kind of localized space-time distortion. Nothing can get in or out of the system." On the bridge of the EDF Prometheus, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with cold satisfaction. "Status report. Enemy fleet at 60% combat ineffective," her tactical officer reported. "Our casualties, 0. Quantum isolation field holding steady. Their distress calls aren't getting through." Chen nodded. "Commence Phase 2. Target their military infrastructure, shipyards first, then command and control centers." The human fleet split into precise attack groups, each executing their assigned tasks with ruthless efficiency. Quantum-tipped missiles bypassed the strongest shields, dark energy beams ignored armor plating, and gravity weapons turned mighty fortresses inside out. In orbit above Arcos Prime, the pride of the Imperial fleet, the dreadnought Eternal Dominion, brought its main weapon to bear on the human flagship. The particle beam that could shatter moons lashed out and passed harmlessly through what turned out to be a holographic projection. The real Prometheus appeared behind the Eternal Dominion, its quantum weapons reducing the massive vessel to its constituent atoms in seconds. On worlds throughout the system, Archean military bases and shipyards collapsed into artificially generated singularities. Centuries of military infrastructure vanished in carefully controlled gravitational events that left civilian structures completely untouched. "High Commander," an aide approached Vexterra, who stood frozen before her viewport. "We're receiving reports. It's the same throughout Imperial space. They're hitting every major military installation simultaneously. The entire defense network is dark." Vexterra watched as another defense platform imploded, crushed by forces she barely understood. "How?" she whispered. "They were primitive. They showed us primitive ships, basic technology." The answer came from Admiral Chen herself, broadcast on all frequencies. "We chose peace because we were wise, not because we were weak. You mistook our restraint for inability. That mistake ends today." In the space of 6 hours, humanity's first strike had reduced the most powerful military force in known space to rubble. Not a single civilian structure was damaged. Not a single non-military casualty was recorded. It was a demonstration not just of overwhelming force, but of precise, controlled power. As the dust settled, Admiral Chen transmitted one final message to the Imperial Palace. "The Helios research platform housed 300 civilians. Your empire just paid for each of their lives with 1,000 warships. The next move is yours." The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed its true face. They had hidden not out of fear, but out of prudence. Now that mask was off, and the cosmos would never be the same. Empire's desperation. The Imperial Palace on Arcos Prime had stood for 10,000 years, its crystal spires a testament to Archean supremacy. Now those spires reflected the burning wreckage of their once mighty defense fleet, scattered across orbit like fallen stars. Emperor Zextalios VI, supreme ruler of the Archean Empire, sat motionless on his crystalline throne as his advisors argued frantically around him. The chamber's holographic displays showed the same scene repeated across 100 worlds, the systematic destruction of military installations, while civilian infrastructure remained untouched. "We've lost contact with 80% of our fleet," the military overseer reported, his scales pale with fear. "The humans, they're not just defeating our forces, they're erasing them." "Impossible," shouted the science minister. Their technology was primitive. We monitored their development for decades. They were barely capable of basic FTL travel. A bitter laugh echoed through the chamber. All eyes turned to Ambassador Corell, their chief diplomatic liaison to Earth. They showed us what they wanted us to see, she said quietly. And we, in our arrogance, never questioned it. The Emperor finally stirred. Explain. Think about it, Corell continued. A species achieves faster than light travel, and within just a few centuries reaches our level of technology. We should have asked ourselves, what else were they developing during those years? What weren't they showing us? On the main display, another military installation vanished into an artificially generated singularity. The precision was terrifying. Military targets atomized while civilian structures mere meters away stood untouched. Your Majesty, the military overseer pleaded, we must launch a full counterattack. Commit every reserve, every hidden fleet. And then what? Corell interrupted. They've demonstrated technology we thought impossible. Quantum shielding that makes our weapons useless. Gravity manipulation that turns space itself into a weapon. They're not just ahead of us. They're operating on principles our science doesn't even understand. The chamber fell silent as another transmission from Admiral Chen played across all frequencies. Attention Archon Empire. Phase 1 of our response is complete. Your military capability has been reduced to 5% of previous capacity. All orbital shipyards have been neutralized. All fleet bases have been destroyed. You have 1 standard hour to initiate surrender protocols. The science minister collapsed into his seat. 1 hour. They're giving us 1 hour to surrender an empire that has stood for 10,000 years. Your Majesty, Corell stepped forward. There's something you need to understand about humans. They're not like us. When we show force, we do it to dominate, to rule. They're different. This display of power, this isn't about conquest. It's about sending a message. What message? The Emperor demanded. That peace was never about weakness. They could have conquered us at any time. They chose not to. They chose cooperation, trade, diplomatic relations, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. We mistook their preference for peace as a sign of inferiority. That was our mistake. New alarms blared. The military overseer's eyes widened in horror. They're moving through our quantum barriers like they don't exist. 3 human vessels just appeared in low orbit over every major military command center in the Empire, simultaneously. The Emperor stood, his ceremonial robes flowing around him. For 10,000 years, the Archean Empire had been the undisputed master of known space. Now, in less than a day, that mastery had been revealed as an illusion. Show me the analysis of civilian casualties, he commanded. The military overseer blinked in confusion. Civilian casualties. There are none, Your Majesty. They destroy our entire military infrastructure without a single civilian death. The precision is unprecedented. The Emperor nodded slowly. They could have killed us all. They chose not to. Ambassador Corell is right. This is a message, not of dominance, but of consequence. They're showing us the price of breaking peace. Your Majesty, the military overseer protested, we cannot simply surrender. Cannot. The Emperor's laugh was bitter. Look around you. Our mighty fleet is atoms. Our military bases are singularities. They have demonstrated power beyond our comprehension, and they've done it while protecting our civilians. They're not giving us a choice. They're giving us a chance. He turned to Corell. Contact Earth. Tell them the Archean Empire is prepared to discuss terms. As the ambassador hurried away, the Emperor watched another defense platform collapse into nothingness. 10,000 years of history had taught his people that might made right, that the strong could do as they pleased to the weak. In a single day, humanity had not just defeated that philosophy, they had rendered it obsolete. In Earth orbit, Admiral Chen received the Emperor's message. She thought of the Helios research platform, of Elena and Lucas, of all the lives lost to imperial arrogance. Their deaths had changed the galaxy forever, but not in the way the Archons had intended. "Send word to the fleet," she ordered. "Hold position but maintain quantum isolation. The Empire has 1 hour to prove they understand their new reality." The galaxy was changing. The age of Archon supremacy was over. What would replace it would depend on whether an empire built on dominance could learn to live in a universe where peace was chosen, not imposed. Dawn of a new era. 1 month after the surrender of the Archon Empire, the Galactic Assembly convened an emergency session. The Great Chamber, designed to hold representatives from every spacefaring civilization, was packed beyond capacity. All had come to witness something unprecedented: the complete restructuring of galactic power. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the assembly, her dress uniform bearing the new insignia of the Earth Defense Force. Behind her, a holographic display showed the final casualty counts from what historians were already calling the 6-Hour War. Thousands of Archon military vessels and installations destroyed, yet not a single civilian casualty. "We stand at a crossroads," she began. "For too long, the galaxy has operated under the assumption that military might grant the right to dominate. The events of the past month have demonstrated not only the folly of that assumption, but the bankruptcy of the philosophy behind it." In the Archon delegation's booth, Emperor Zextalios VI listened silently. His once mighty empire had been transformed overnight. Their military reduced to a planetary defense force, their shipyards under international supervision, their ability to threaten peace stripped away with surgical precision. Humanity kept its true capabilities, hidden not out of fear, Chen continued, but out of hope. Hope that we could integrate into galactic society gradually, that we could demonstrate through example rather than force that cooperation is stronger than domination. The destruction of the Helios research platform forced our hand. The display shifted to show the faces of the Helios victims: scientists, researchers, children. 300 lives that had changed the galaxy. We now reveal the full scope of the technology we developed in secret: quantum drives capable of ignoring traditional space-time limitations, gravity manipulation systems that can reshape reality itself, energy weapons that bypass any known defense. We share this knowledge not to boast, but to demonstrate a point. Power does not grant rights. Rights exist independent of power, and power exists to protect those rights. The assembly chamber erupted in murmurs as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't just revealing their military might. They were fundamentally challenging the way galactic civilization had operated for millennia. To that end, Chen gestured, and new holographic displays appeared. We proposed the Helios Accords, a new framework for galactic cooperation based not on military strength, but on mutual respect and protection of rights. The terms appeared before the assembly: universal protection for civilian research vessels and installations, mandatory quantum transponders on all military vessels, international oversight of military shipyard production, establishment of the Helios Guard, a multinational rapid response force, technology sharing programs for defensive and civilian applications. These accords are not a request. Chen's voice carried through the chamber. They are the new reality. Earth will serve as guarantor, but we do not seek dominion. We seek partnership. Emperor Zextalios VI stood, his movement drawing all eyes. The Archon Empire accepts these terms, he declared, his voice carrying the weight of 10,000 years of history. We have learned, at great cost, that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to choose peace. One by one, other civilizations signaled their acceptance. They had all seen the footage of the 6-Hour War. They had all witnessed power beyond their comprehension wielded with unprecedented restraint. In orbit above Earth, the Prometheus fleet maintained its vigilant watch. The ships that had rewritten the rules of warfare now stood ready to enforce the rules of peace. Admiral Chen concluded her address. Let the destruction of the Helios platform mark Not just the end of an era of dominance, but the beginning of an age of cooperation. We chose peace before because we were wise. We choose it now because we know its value. And we will defend it with all the power at our disposal. The assembly chamber erupted in applause. In the diplomatic section, Ambassador Carell leaned toward her human counterpart. "You could have conquered us all," she whispered. "Why didn't you?" The human ambassador smiled. "Because conquest wasn't the point. Peace maintained through fear isn't peace at all. It's just delayed war. Real peace comes from understanding, from choice. That's what we've been trying to show the galaxy all along." As the session concluded, a new memorial was being constructed in orbit around Earth, the rebuilt Helios research platform. This time, it would serve not just as a center for scientific discovery, but as a symbol of a new galactic order. One where strength existed to protect peace, not to enforce dominance. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And humanity stood ready to ensure it would last, not through force of arms, but through the power of choice and the wisdom to use that power wisely.